everyone, welcome back to SheCOMMERCE, where power women and real talk collide in the CPG world. I'm Christina.
And I'm Jackie. And today is not just a day,
Mhm.
it's International Women's Day, the day we celebrate the women building brands, running teams, moving culture, and yes, making the calls that shape what ends up on shelf and in cart.
Yeah, and everyone knows us. They know we love a good celebration. We're here for a good party, but we also love a reality check because when it comes to leadership, we've spoken about this before. The boardroom is still one of the last rooms that's weirdly hard to get into.
Like the velvet rope is still up and it's in front of the bricks and the travelator going the wrong way and everything else, every other object you could get, you can obstacle you can put in the way, kind of thing. And the excuses are always the same, aren't they, Christina? We just need
Mhm.
to find qualified women. Hello, spoiler alert, that is not the issue.
No, it is not. We don't have a supply problem here. We have a demand problem. And that's what we're here to discuss today and why this episode hits so hard. Because boards don't just oversee, they are the ones deciding, making the hard calls on the strategy, where to place those investments, which leadership hires they should go with, M&A opportunities, and of course, innovation big bets. The whole future of the companies they lead.
And globally, countries are getting tired of waiting. Norway was the first to mandate 40% women on boards, and a number of European countries followed with mandates of targets. Iceland is another fast follow to that because the market was not correcting itself fast enough.
Yeah. And we applaud those markets. And it's not just diversity for optics, it's how decisions are actually getting made. Research shows that women directors tend to prep more thoroughly, ask more probing questions, and are shifting board dynamics toward more productive conversation, less posturing, more progress.
Amen to
We have the
that.
receipts, Jackie.
We always have the receipts, Christina. And this is why our message for International Women's Day is simple. Representation is not a nice to have. It's governance. It's growth. It's relevance. Because boards should reflect the consumers they serve.
Amen. And in CPG, that's not a small point. We know that women drive the majority of consumer purchasing, yet our board
80%.
seats don't reflect that reality. And that's a problem.
80%. And where are the women? All right. Now, that aside, let's spill some tea.
All right. So,
First
first,
up,
yeah, we love a good leadership glow up at Lantanal, which is a company that's very near and dear to our hearts as we've both trusted and used the brand when we had our babies. They just announced a CEO transition with Julie Talbot promoted to global CEO. Now, that's a serious seat at the table and a reminder again that women are leading some of the most purpose-driven brands in the parenting and family space.
isn't that kind of controversial, Christina? You know, a woman, a mother leading a brand that appeals and is targeted to mothers and
It kind
people
of makes
who,
sense.
right? And we're watching this pattern. Brands that sit at the intersection of trust and care and community are increasingly being led by women who understand the consumer because, drumroll please, they are the consumer. Wow. Right? Wow.
Well, our next retail shakeup is about Target. So they made a big retail chess move. They appointed longtime exec Lisa Roth as chief operating officer as part of a broader leadership reshuffle. So translation here is operations, merchandising, and experience at Target seem to be getting rewired. And that matters for every CPG brand trying to win with Target, both in store and online.
And when a retailer like Target adjusts the org chart, that ripple hits everyone. How teams buy, how innovation gets prioritized, how media connects to shelf, how assortments evolve, all of it.
Yeah. All right. So, as maybe a bonus sip, we know shoppable TV is continuing to heat up and it just continues to get smarter. So there's a new startup called Silver and they're launching an AI plus computer vision program that lets you literally scan your screen, whatever you're watching, and shop it. So I think it started from Emily in Paris, that show. And you can literally scan whatever they're wearing and find that outfit, shop it, add to your cart, or even similar outfits, right? Something that has that look. But it's really interesting because it will expand. It will go beyond fashion. It will go to maybe the look they have on beauty, and you'll get the products in your cart or the products they're eating, whatever it may be. So it's a signal, right? Commerce and content continuing to collapse into one experience.
My God, I have just become a pauper because hello, Emily in Paris. Have you seen those outfits? And the shoes, Christina, the shoes.
I know.
Why did you have to talk about this? Darn it. So, CPG brands, pay attention because the
Mhm.
next end cap might be a scene in a show. And ladies, I'm sorry.
Sorry for your wallet. So that brings us to today's main event. And honestly, it's the perfect episode for International Women's Day. We're so excited.
Oh my God, are we excited? We're joined by the powerhouse team behind Women on Boards Project, a nonprofit working to increase the representation of women on successful private consumer company boards. Right? Are we excited? Are we excited?
So excited. Oh my gosh. And we are so aligned with their POV, and it's one that we need more of, right? They talk about boards should reflect the consumers they serve. We need to change the perception of what a strong board member looks like. And this is going to be our mantra today, but it is not a supply problem. It is a demand problem.
I think we need t-shirts. Just
We
saying.
with the shirts, we can hook that up.
And the impact is real. They've helped open doors for first-time board members and expanded representation across historically underrepresented groups.
Mm-hmm. Because here's the business case that boards just can't ignore. Companies with at least one woman on board have been shown, on average, to see stronger performance metrics than those without. I mean, again, we have the receipts.
We always have the receipts, Christina. And joining us today, without further ado, let's start off with the fabulous Cassie Burr, co-founder and board member of Women on Boards Project. Cassie helped build this organization into a movement that challenges the recycled board member cycle. Oh my God, I love that. And pushes boards to widen the lens on what leadership looks like.
Yes. And joined by Kierstin Riley. She is the CEO of the Women on Boards Project, and she stepped into this role after leading Naturally. She's focused on scaling the mission, getting more exceptional women into the rooms where the biggest consumer decisions get made.
To quote one of my favorite people, all right, all right, all right, let's bring them in. Because today, on International Women's Day, we're not just celebrating women, we're talking about who gets to decide.
Let's go. Welcome.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
We're so excited to have you both.
We really are. We really are. Let's get started with learning a little bit more about your ideas and where everything came from. So, Cassie, I'm going to start with you. Could you take us back to what did you see in the market that made you say we need this organization? We need women on boards, and we need it right now.
Well, there are a few of us kind of gathered in the room. So back then it was Cheryl Laughlin, former CEO of Cliff, one of the co-founders of Plum Organics, our late founder, Roel, who is also one of the founders of BMG Partners, Lissa Facchini, founder of City Capital. And really what we were talking about is women drive 70 to 80% of purchasing decisions. When you think about consumer companies, women should be represented in the boardroom because women are the consumers that we are serving. The frustrating thing, though, is when you look at other groups focusing on board diversity, they're focusing on the supply side. So how do we increase the pipeline of board-ready women? And we frankly think that is bullshit. I don't know if I can say that here, but we think that's bullshit.
You could say.
The real issue is with the demand side. So that's how the Women on Boards Project was born, is focusing on the demand side of the equation and educating founders, not just why, which you guys talked a lot about, but how to add a woman to their board.
We love the cause. And thank you for doing that, because it's so true, right? That voice of consumer needs to be reflected in those making the decisions around the table. Kierstin, you came from CPG and now you're placing women onto these consumer brand boards. What was there a moment, and what was that moment that made you realize that this isn't a pipeline issue? It's a power issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Christina, to give you some numbers, so we have about 7,500 women in our database who have raised their hand and said, I would like a board seat. And there's probably another 7,500 that we could easily pull from. We have placed 74 women, which is incredible. Like, we've placed 74 women on for-profit consumer brand boards.
Amazing.
However, the math doesn't math. If you look at the 7,500 who want one, and there's 74 placements. So you'll hear us say that 100 times in this podcast, that we firmly believe it is a demand issue of opening up the board seats for women, and not a supply issue of these women who need to get, quote unquote, more board ready.
Love that. But the numbers, these are not percentages we like. Oh my gosh, we need to increase that. So, Kierstin, taking that to a little bit further, Women on Boards isn't just about supporting women, right? It's about serving the company, the founder, and the investor. So tell us a little bit more. Why did you build it that way?
Yeah, so I would say that's definitely a differentiator of Women on Boards project, is we see our customer as the investor, the founder, the CEO of the brand, as opposed to the women. It's funny, but sometimes we'll say we don't serve women, we serve companies. And it just, when you say it and when you hear it, it sounds so backwards. Literally, our name is Women on Boards Project. However, we firmly believe that if we want to move the needle and open up 7,500 board seats for those women, we have to do that by working with the brands and the investors directly. We call them the seat openers. Those are the ones who have the decision-making power, who decide who gets the board seat. So we really see them as our customer, as the pipeline of how we make actual change in this industry.
And that makes a ton of sense. Basically, you're presenting it so that it's not performative, that you are looking at the bottom line and how to improve that bottom line with fantastic talent.
Exactly.
What's one early placement or early yes that proved this model, right? Focusing, as you said, on those seat openers worked. And can you share a little bit about what that unlocked?
There's so many awesome stories we could share, but one of my favorites is thinking about Simple Mills, a brand that a lot of families, a lot of houses have fully stocked in their homes. And back then, Caitlin, when we got the opportunity to work with her, her board was herself and 4 investors. And those 4 are incredible. This isn't saying anything about that, but there's something really powerful about having a different type of person in the room, an operator, someone who's been in that seat before, who's seen the journey firsthand of what it looks like for a business to grow from something relatively small to much bigger. And one of the expertise that she was really missing is just the expert on regenerative agriculture. So we were so pleased to help connect her to Amanda Steele, who is a founder herself. She actually started a small CPG business, but she knew better for you CPG better than most, both from the retailer side, working at Safeway, but also at Annie's, one of the most iconic better for you businesses, through their acquisition by General Mills. And not only that, she was, came from the investor lens, working at a regenerative agriculture business. She couldn't have been a more perfect fit. And if we fast forward, last year, a lot of folks are probably well aware, Simple Mills was acquired for $795 million. And I really do think Caitlin would say the same thing. Amanda's influence in that room was certainly impactful and a differentiator. And this is only 1 out of 10 of our companies that we've worked with that have been acquired since we started all of this in 2020.
It's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure you can tell us you have lots of those types of stories. So would love to hear more at that time.
It's totally show me the money.
Yes.
Totally.
Right?
Completely. My God. So let's start with a hot take here. If women drive about 80% of consumer decisions, what does it cost brands when women aren't in the boardroom?
It costs brands a lot. So let me back up some stats here. So Jacqui, as you mentioned, women drive about 80% of all consumer decisions.
Yep.
They sit on 30% of public board seats. That is the data that we have available. There isn't really data on private board seats. Our best guess is about 10% on private boards, private consumer boards. So to back you up, 80% consumer decisions in the grocery store, and then 10% of your leadership table. Just look at that from a, do you have your customer in at your highest level of leadership at your room? Here's a quick example that's very, very timely for anybody who's listening to this this week is Frida Baby recently launched essentially like a sexualized baby campaign. Completely backfired. They're getting so much backlash.
Shocking.
And yes,
That's
we
crazy.
we won't know the details on that, but we just were there women in the room where that decision was being made? We don't know. So I mean, that's just a very recent example. There are countless examples of that over and over again. It's only going to happen, or it's only going to continue happening. Get women at your table is what our whole mission is. It's what we want to do.
Well, we're here to elevate that and hopefully get that out to lots of people to continue with even more. So 74, let's shoot for those numbers for the end of the year. So Cassie, what would you say is actually changing then in board composition, especially in those venture-backed private companies that you're focused on? And what, in your opinion, is not changing fast enough?
It's kind of all baked into the same thing. So I'm very encouraged that we're not having to educate as much on the why component. A lot of founders, especially the ones that we want to work with, obviously, fully appreciate that more diverse boards and more diverse teams result in stronger companies, higher return on equity. We're not having to share as much on that. We are also seeing a little bit of early signals that founders want that operational expertise in the room. So they're looking around the room. Often those seats are driven by term sheets, not necessarily by talent. And so the board is often comprised of other investors, but founders are starting to recognize like there's a lot of conflict of interest that exists in that seat when that board member represents a big portion of investment from their fund. And so they're starting to have that conversation with their investors about how they want a former founder or a head of X, Y, or Z in the room. And I think the thing that we're excited to see even more of is that specialist knowledge that we think really lives in the boardroom. Don't get me wrong, we love getting to put former CEOs that like head, has been there, helped lead a company through acquisition. But what's underutilized is someone who has extensive, deep, specialized expertise in the category, in the industry, in the function, in where the company is going. So the more that founders can think about what are the biggest hurdles in the next 5 years that a specialist could really help us solve, that's where we think there's underutilized opportunity.
Yeah, so more targeted placements. I mean, the example you gave earlier with Amanda Steele, right? Like that very specialist, better for you expertise that obviously helped unlock, some of the value that they brought, leading to the acquisition.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Kierstin, I want to go back to what you said about the percentages on boards. And you said that public boards, you're looking at about 30% representation, private boards, about 10-ish.
Yes.
So what is it that most people perhaps misunderstand about private boards, and who really influences those seats?
Jacqui, that's such a great question. And unfortunately, there is no one size fits all, which is also part of the problem of why we don't have great data on representation on private boards. They're just not required to report it. So nobody does. There's actually no body to take the reportings, even if they did. So back to the question, every board is so different. Even within investors' own portfolio companies, those boards operate so differently from one another. That being said, former board experience, quote unquote, isn't really that helpful because every single board is so different. There is so much learning when you join a board anyways. The board meeting is full of people who aren't all board members. So sometimes nobody actually knows who's a board member, who's a board advisor, who's a board observer, who's staff, who's a secretary, who's the lawyer. Like not everybody knows who everybody else is. And so that is something that we are really trying to change and to just help women get at that table. And even if they're a board observer or a board advisor, get them at that table and pay them. And that is really something that we are trying to push forward. As Cassie alluded to, sometimes who gets that board seat isn't driven by the talent and isn't driven by the best person for that role. It's often driven by the term sheet and by the investors. So if there are any founders listening to this and you want an operator, it's honestly as easy as asking. And ask if you want an operator in your board seat, ask your investor, hey, can we add this person? Like, it's at least worth the conversation. Add them as an advisor, add them as an observer. Just get them in the room. You want that expertise in the room.
I love that.
I love that. Just ask for it. Say what you want. Say what you need.
Yes.
And, when we do these podcasts, we love to give some real practical advice for our listeners. So if you could maybe break it down, if there's a woman listening right now, which we know there are, and thinking, hey, I want a board seat, what are 3 or so practical moves that she should take in the next year to set her up for that?
Yes. So let me start with a super high level question. There is nothing that these women are doing wrong or that they need to do differently. It is a total industry problem, not a woman problem, not a woman specific problem. We are here to help change the industry, to help change the demand issue, all of those things that we've been saying. I just want to start with that. That is the cold hard truth. Secondary to that, mentorship is the best way to help support first-time board members. Mentorship is the best way to help get people in the boardroom. And what we mean by that is find somebody who's done it, who's been there, done that. We just hosted a webinar a little bit ago, and Sharon Fox, who we just absolutely love at Women on Boards Project, when she joined her first board, she said she saw a woman across the table from her at that board who was just stellar. Kick-ass woman. She was phenomenal. And Sharon called her out and said, hey, I need your help. Will you mentor me? And that woman said, absolutely. We're going to start flying into board meetings a day early. We're going to go over a whole game plan. And Sharon said that one woman completely changed the trajectory of her career. So cannot be said about how powerful mentorship is. Second piece is ignore the bad advice. There's so much bad advice out there. And I don't want to call out any specific pieces of bad advice. If it feels bad in your gut, listen to that. Just don't do it. And then the third piece is take the meetings, get to know the people, put yourself out there, find reasons to stay connected. I say it might sound a little woo-woo, but manifest it. Just keep talking about it, put it out there. So those would be the 3 pieces of advice. So mentorship, ignore the bad advice, put it out there.
I'll throw out one of the examples of really bad advice. Between I tend to be the slightly more controversial one. And that is, I don't know how often women in particular are told, if you want to have a for-profit board role, look at the nonprofit space. Board rooms, they're nothing like each other. That is not a path. If you're excited about the nonprofit space, that is not a means to an end. That is an end in itself. Go pursue that. But that is not the path to get for-profit opportunities. And I'm so sick of women being told that piece of advice.
That's crazy. It's like, do you want to learn how to make money? Go to someone who gives money away.
Right.
What makes no sense? Well, and Kierstin, we love some woo-woo. We always love the woo-woo.
Okay, good. I'm all about the woo-woo. Manifest it, baby.
Can I ask a quick question, though? What about the advice to take an unpaid role before you maybe seek a paid role? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. And there's not a one size fits all. And so are you paid in equity? That would be a question. Are you unpaid for your first year and you get to negotiate that again in your second year? We're not going to say don't ever take an unpaid role, because I think there are instances where it makes sense. Again, and this is where it gets so gray and so muddy that it's hard for us to give specific advice, because unpaid roles can turn into crazy kick-ass roles later down the line. They can also, the business can go out of business and then you give up all that time. So it's hard.
So listen to your gut again.
Listen to your gut. Ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. There's no dumb questions.
Makes sense. So let's talk about advisory roles, right? If a company says that we don't have an open seat, how do you help them create a board advisor role that's real and not performative? I mean, because we don't want to just take a box, right? We want to be there through merit. So go.
Yes. One of our favorite questions. And for your last point, one of the pillars that we stand on is we're not here for diversity's sake. We're here because diverse boards make better business decisions. So like, there you go. So Jacqui, board advisors can be really, really powerful. And back to what I was saying earlier, like in that meeting room, not everybody knows who's an advisor, who's a director, like all of those things. So what we quantify as a placement, so when we say those 74 placements, we want that woman to be paid. And Cristina, back to the question earlier, paid. We like it to be compensation and equity. In certain cases, I think equity only is a decent package, but we like it to be compensation as well. So she needs to be paid, she needs to be in the room, and she needs to have a voice. Those three things quantify as a placement, as a board advisor. What's missing from that list are voting rights. And again, so few things actually come down to a vote in private meetings, in private boardroom meetings. Not everybody knows who has voting rights and who doesn't. I was just talking to a woman. She was like, "Oh yeah, my first board role, I didn't have voting rights. They came down to a vote and they asked me, 'What's your vote?' And she said, 'I don't have voting rights.'" Like they didn't even know. So yeah. So it goes back to those three things. Paid, in the room, has a voice.
So we know that there's lots of supply, right? There's 7,500 women in your database. You mentioned that. This is definitely a demand challenge, an opportunity. So why is demand the harder lever here? And what are you doing to help create that demand going forward?
Yes.
How do you create it?
Yeah, that is the question. That is what we're always answering. Something we talk about a lot is founders often underestimate the leverage that they truly have to ask for additional operator seats. And again, go back to an operator advisor, operator board member. And so really we're just trying to continue to open up those doors by working with founders and investors directly to get more butts and seats, more women butts and seats at that table. And again, like the people who truly influence the board seats are often the investors. And so we're just trying to work with direct investors directly, work with brands directly to keep opening up those seats. There are other organizations who maybe, again, focus on the supply side, focus on having quote unquote board ready seminars. What does that even mean? Like, what does that mean to be board ready? Back to what we were saying earlier, private boards operate so differently from one another. Private boards operate so differently from public boards and nonprofit boards. Like, how do you like give a stamp, like a seal of approval? You're board ready now. You were before you paid $10,000 for that weekend seminar. You don't need to do that. So like I said, we really see the way that we move the needle is by working with the brands directly and opening the board seats for these incredible women that we have on our desk.
Storytelling is going to be a really important part of the equation and something you're going to see us do a lot more in the coming year. So these stories from the most successful founders who have been through and out the other side, talking about the most influential board members that they've had and the impact those folks have had on their boards, or from the board members themselves, the way that they've been able to really support founders. Those stories, the more that we can bring those to light and empower the future founders to arm them when they have those conversations with their investors of the impact these types of board seats can make, are going to be really powerful. So stay tuned.
Well, I love a good story, Cassie.
It's so powerful.
So incredibly powerful. My entire life has been every conversation, every presentation, it's all about the story. And that is from my childhood. Everything that I learned, all the crazy outlier stuff that I learned was because of a really good story. And that's, I think, and they're so, so powerful. To your point, so powerful. So going to kind of riff on that story theme, your customer is the seat opener, frequently men. What's the best argument, the best story that lands with a founder or investor who thinks board diversity is nice, but not urgent?
Yes. We always go back to that stat. 80% of consumer decisions, 80,
Yeah.
made by women. How many women are at your leadership table? Just, put gender equity aside, put all those things aside. Like, is your customer sitting at your leadership table helping you make the biggest decisions of your company? And if not, like, you're leaving money on the table, like just all of those things. Yeah. Like, Cassie, anything else to add to that?
No,
The opportunity cost of not having that voice of customer represented. Absolutely. Makes total sense.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? I mean, ultimately, it is literally common sense.
Literally. Literally.
Yes.
Literally. Well, we like to, if you haven't seen it yet, we love to spill the tea. So we're going to do a little lightning round, little fun round here. So tell us what comes to your mind first. But what is, in terms of pet peeves, maybe the most overused buzzword that you're going to ban in 2026?
Board ready.
Oh,
What does that even mean? Are you asking men if they're board ready? You're not. Board ready women, no, that's it. Cut,
Right, we're calling
eradicate board
BS on board ready.
I love that. Okay, so what's the most common excuse you hear from seat openers, and what's your one-line response?
Such a good question. We want a member who has had former board experience. Again, why? How are you operating so similarly to a different board that person was on prior? You're not. It's just this gimmick of people who want prior board experience. Boards operate so differently from one another. The majority of the women that we are putting forward have been in the boardroom before. As I mentioned, boardrooms are full of tons of people. They've all been in those seats before. They've just never held the title. They've been there as employees. So that's what we're trying to do. Get past this like first time board member requisition.
So what's one thing that founder, investor, those people holding the seats, as you said, could do not someday, but this quarter to open the door or the seat for women?
Yeah. Ask yourself if your board reflects the consumers that they serve. And if it doesn't, don't be limited by not having an open board seat. Start the conversation. Can we add an operator seat with XYZ experience?
And then, of course, I come in with my exceedingly important question here, guys. I'm going to start with you, Cassie. What is your hype song before you go to a meeting or a boardroom? And that would go for you too, Kierstin.
I've really gotten my daughters hooked on this one lately. It's adorable. It's absolutely Gautier.
Love it.
Gautier.
Yeah.
Somebody that I used to know.
No. Cristina, no.
She was asking for help, okay? She was calling a friend.
It's literally a call and response song, and Cristina was backing me up.
Yes. I mean, Cristina doesn't need any excuse.
Although Jacqui's the singer.
My family and I just took a road trip and we met up with Cassie's family and they were playing that song. And so my kids were singing it the whole car ride home.
Nice.
My God, I love it. So is that your go-to too, Kierstin? Or
I would say this. I don't know what this says about me, or I'm not even this old, but honestly, it would be Crazy Train by Black Sabbath.
That fits you so perfectly. I love it.
Oh
yes.
God. We're adding them to our Spotify playlist.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Cristina, has yours changed? Because mine changes all the time.
No, I mean, it's definitely situational, but I still like Demi Lovato, Confident. That's like the one if I had to pick.
See, I feel that when it depends on my mood. So this week I'm a little more wrecking ball, Miley Cyrus.
Okay. Here for that.
That's my energy this week.
That's your energy.
That seems appropriate in the world today. Absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
Breaking those walls down.
Nothing makes me happier than some good Queen too, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I mean, is there a bad Queen though, Cassie? This is the question, right?
Oh, Freddie Mercury is both.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the best ways.
All right. So I guess now we have a closing call to action, and that is, what's your ask for our community on International Women's Day? One action that you would like our listeners to take away this week.
So high level is start asking questions. So if you're a founder, start asking questions of yourself. What does my board look like? What roles do I need? Can I add a board member to my seat? Can I talk to my investors about that? If you're a founder, talk to your founder friends about their boards. What does your board look like? What kind of roles do you need? What's your diversity? If you're an employee, ask your leadership team. What does our board look like? Just start asking those questions. Start asking if seats can be added. Just keep this top of mind. Keep asking questions about board composition and just board governance.
So start asking questions, but stop asking women to be board ready as
Yes.
well. Stop asking that question and start asking the companies to be customer ready because we are representative of their customer base.
And I
Awesome.
would say don't ever use the term board ready unless you're telling somebody else not to use that term. It's like Voldemort, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
don't.
We already banned it. It's off the list. So it's done.
I
right, well-
love the passion, Kierstin. I love it. I love it.
This topic is so important and we love that we are elevating it on the best day possible, International Women's Day. So thank you so much for your support. And with every episode, we like to do a little informal pledge. So we're building a growing network of female leaders and advocates. And so Cassie and Kierstin, will you take the pledge with us to pay it forward, amplify women's voices, and help shape the future of commerce together?
Thank you for doing the work you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. All day, every day.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, I guess that just leaves me to say, all brands, fierce women, one sisterhood.